This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Look at that ESPN draft countdown. 1 hour, 57 minutes, and 28 seconds, 27, 26, 25.
They had the counter for days and weeks.
I can't imagine anyone more aroused than our next guest. It's Nacho Leber, Ben Leber, joining us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. You always have an extra bounce in your step on Draft Thursday, don't you? There's nothing like it for Ben Leber.
Well, it's hard to bounce when you're aroused, according to you.
I guess I hadn't thought of it that way. You might be right. Yeah, that might be a contradiction in terms. That's true.
I might need to sit down. Or
sit down.
Take a cold shower.
Or both. Yeah, sit down in the shower. In the cold shower. Yeah. I could do that too. Yeah, for sure.
No, I am super excited. I mean, I think aren't we all just sort of like tired of talking about the what ifs?
Yes.
It is this time of year where you have months of talking about the what ifs, and really for Vikings fans, it's a difficult conversation because it could be multiple different positions. It's multiple players at each position. So it's hard to, we love to debate, and it's a lot more fun to debate last year when you're like, well, I like this quarterback, and I like this quarterback. And it's like, okay, those are kind of fun. But, when we have 5 or 6 guys that we could choose from, it's a little less fun on the debate side.
Do you accept the premise that because of how active the Vikings were in free agency, very ambitious, and I think, a series of very promising acquisitions, that it frees them even more, it frees the organization to go with the proverbial best player available, regardless of position, because they've dealt already with so many needs. Do you buy that premise?
For the most part, I mean, kind of to a point, because we address some areas of need, but a lot of the guys that we got they're older, They're coming off injury, they're not not necessarily reliable for the next 4 or 5 years, and that's really what you're looking for in the draft. Is you're looking for, especially the first rounder, you're looking for a guy that you want to sign a second contract to. You want a Justin Jefferson type where you want him to play through, be super successful, and pound your chest a little bit when they outplay that contract and they become sort of a cornerstone to your team. And that's what we're looking at 24. And of course, you want to find some solid starters later in the draft with the few remaining picks that we have. But yeah, definitely at 24. Even though we have some defensive linemen now, we have obviously an offensive line. We still have a starting left guard right now. I mean, it's not like we have a completely open hole. And we did address the cornerback room, but again, we've seen the last few years with this Vikings team with injuries and just weird circumstances, we seem to be depleted all the time as we get into the season at cornerback. So why not just add some more depth there? Yeah,
that's a fair point too. And the age considerations when it comes to the acquisitions along the line of scrimmage, that is certainly part of the story. There's the age-old question when you're picking, and given how few draft choices the Vikings are starting this draft with, there are a lot of people who believe in the old, let's move down some if we can get an extra pick. I am not a huge fan of moving down. I guess if you make the argument, we're going to move down just a few picks, and in doing so can still get, we think, a player that we're going to have on the same plateau as where we were picking originally anyway, then go ahead and do it. I generally believe in the old, wherever you're picking, don't overthink it. Don't mess with it too much. Do you have a general Leber philosophy that governs your view on that age-old question?
I'm with you about 80% of the way. I think the only way you trade back is if you are looking into that, I don't know, 27.
Yeah, right.
I 27, 28. I mean, I don't really want to be dealing with Detroit anymore. This whole trading within the division. Let's just kind of shy away from that a little bit. But if Baltimore wants to come up for whatever reason, if Washington wants to come up or something like that, I would say yes. But this idea of trading out of the first round, I am totally against that. I really am, and I know that we can add some more draft picks and some high draft picks, but I'm much more 80% just stick and pick. 20% of me is like, okay, if we move down a couple spots, we're likely to still get either the exact player that we were targeting or somebody very similar. And so, that's kind of my thought process going into tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that part of it too. Again, if you're not moving down much and you can, maximize and get another pick, then maybe you do make that kind of a call. There doesn't seem to be much opinion that the Vikings, in part, I guess, because of the lack of assets, are very likely to move up. Because you always have that question of, all right, there's a player sliding that we like a lot more than other people, and we didn't think it was going to be available, but we feel obligated to try to go and get him. I guess that's not impossible, but the asset problem the Vikings have probably limits the possibilities there, does it not?
Yeah, it does. I mean, we have kind of handcuffed ourselves with any sort of movement because we just don't have a lot of assets. And, if you want to talk about players to be traded on draft night, again, I'm sure that as we go through the roster, you could say like, well, we could maybe expend this guy and, you could make the argument for this guy. But again, you don't have a lot of tradable assets from a player standpoint either, at least in my opinion. So, that's why, I'm kind of with you on the stick and pick and just like, let's not try to get real cutesy with this. Let's not try to be the smartest GM in the room, and let's really pound our chest and just claim how smart I am. And we made this trade, and oh my gosh, look at the value we have on this scale and this grid, and we actually got a better value than the team that we traded with. Let's just not get involved in that because we just don't have a lot. And just sticking with the guy. And the thing is, when you look at a lot of these mock drafts, there are going to be in kind of whatever scenario, whether there's a run on offensive linemen or a run on defensive tackles or even a slight run on cornerbacks, if that happens, then two of those other three areas are going to be available now. So again, just take the guy that falls in your lap and be happy with it.
So are any particular players you're eyeing in that regard?
I mean, of course, we're always talking about Gray Zabel and Tyler Booker. I mean, those are the two guys that just seem like, from all the experts that say they will most likely be available in that spot. And then it comes down to, well, what do they feel like is the best fit?
Yeah, right.
Gray is a little longer, a little more position flexibility. He's got a little more athleticism. Booker's the bigger guy, and he's primarily played left guard when he was in college at Alabama, and just seems like a true left guard. And, he's a little bit more of a straight ahead guy and maybe not so much of a lateral athletic guy like Gray is. So again, are they both very talented? Yes. And can they both play for us? Absolutely. But it's going to come down to the offensive line coach and just figure out, okay, this is the type of guy that I really, really want for our scheme. And if it comes down to those two, then obviously they're going to tip their hand at who they want when they select them.
You were a linebacker, but I want to believe that the emphasis the Vikings have put on in this offseason at the line of scrimmage already is music to your ears along the offensive and defensive lines. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I would much rather stick with offense, defensive line. I mean, especially defensively, even though we have guys now. I would much rather draft the sort of interior pass rusher, so to speak, than a cornerback.
But even in terms of the moves they've already made, if we broaden the subject and talk about the free agency, I just like the emphasis. I feel like maybe this is the first time, even KOC, because even some of his comments in the offseason about the running game, about changing some things, tells me that maybe that something has finally gotten through, that we have to worry a little less about finesse and a little bit maybe about what some other really good teams who still are space age when it comes to passing the ball are saying still has to be a part of our success.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that is not just experience of calling plays now for 3 years in the league, but maybe that's part of just what makes J.J. McCarthy really good when he was at Michigan. And
yeah, true.
Maybe it's the style of play action. Obviously not every play action is the same. Not every run action is the same. And I have this sort of thought that when it comes to maybe transforming our run game a little bit, especially with Jordan Mason now in the fold, that I'm guessing that we would lean towards the offensive lineman that can pull a little bit more, that can get out in space a little bit more, instead of just a regular zone play and a run play and a zone action. Maybe it's a wide stretching zone, because JJ is more athletic than Sam Darnold was and more athletic than Kirk Cousins was. Like, he can get out there and make those sort of play action passes and then still turn around and bubble around with speed and timing, so he doesn't throw off the chemistry and the routes all the way down the field. So I'm guessing that a lot of this is just sort of syncing up into what JJ has done really well. Maybe just we incorporate more pulling guards and more of like a true down and around pull scheme and like power football, so to speak, where you're running, traditional powers, traditional counters. Maybe you have a little bit more I formation, things that they were doing at Michigan. Not to say you transform your whole offense into what they did at Michigan, but kind of playing into your quarterback strengths a little bit more.
Nacho Leber will be a significant part of Vikings draft coverage tonight that will start on the Fan and then move over to News Talk AM 1130. Although, again, you don't have to worry about frequencies. If you've got the iHeart Radio app, you can basically push button from one to the other, because, of course, the Wild will then take over on the Fan as well. So I have not checked in with you in a while. Where are you? I mean, what's the best case scenario from Ben Leber's standpoint regarding the backup quarterback for the Vikings? What do you think?
I'm still in that holding out hope it's a Tannehill type of guy. I mean, I guess that not really a Tannehill types of players out there, so just Tannehill himself. I'm still hoping that that's the guy that they target and they go after. And the reason I say that is he has a ton of experience. It's about the role that this backup quarterback's going to play, which is why the whole time I was completely against having Aaron Rodgers come in, because Aaron Rodgers is going to want to come in and start. No doubt. And then you have this rumor floating around a little bit, and now it's a very small rumor, and the probability of this happening that Kirk Cousins comes back, and it's like, again, I think personally Kirk still thinks that he can play as a starter in this league. So why would you want to bring that sort of energy, that sort of commotion into the locker room again? Like, find a guy that knows that he's going to be the backup. He's there to mentor. He's there to help out, maybe step in for a game or two or a series two if he has to. But just find a guy that knows his role. And that's why I think Tannehill makes so much sense. Are
you saying you're not convinced that Rodgers would be the good soldier in precisely that role? Is that the suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shocking.
But as Garza and I have talked about, if the quarterback whisperer could be the one guy to actually turn A-Rod into a good soldier, it would be the greatest coaching job in the history. I don't want to chance it. I'm with you. I don't think you can take that risk, but it would be the ultimate challenge for any head coach, including the guy who says he knows A-Rod very well. It doesn't appear, though, that is likely to be in the future.
Yeah, I mean, imagine how boring his McAfee hits would be if he was just a backup quarterback for hopefully 17-plus games. Right. And it's like, well, what did you do? What did you do this week in meetings? Did you play? Do you have like a new game on your phone or something, or what's going on there?
Well, you know what he'd say.
He'd only get $500,000 for the year instead of $1 million.
And you know what he'd say? He'd say, "Look, I'm not. No offense on JJ, I love him. He's going to be a really good quarterback, but there's several plays I think we probably could have made there." he couldn't help himself. He would say something like that.
He would be. Yeah. He wouldn't be able to help himself. But I actually think I'd be kind of interested. I mean, he might just take up gardening. He might be growing his own ayahuasca by that point in time. He'd be so bored. He's like, listen, I know this only grows in Costa Rica, but I got this awesome greenhouse now in Minnesota, and I'm growing all my own stuff. Like I would just be. I think maybe this is the Twin Cities Live coming out to me. Like maybe he'd be a great guest for our show because our viewers would love it.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. So it's interesting on Cousins. So you think even though, he's certainly not going to be as outwardly disruptive as A-Raj would, I don't think, that the fact that he's still in his mind's thinking, I can still be the guy, that it's not worth running if you could work out everything else, the money, and even one of the possibilities would be you take in a little bit more of the financial burden, and in return, Atlanta gives you some draft choices. You still don't believe that's worth the risk?
No, I really don't. And this is more. I truly think that. Kirk is. He would definitely be a good soldier. I think that if they came back and brought him in and said that KOC said, listen, this is your role. This is what we want you to do. We want you to be this amazing mentor and help JJ out, and you're going to be the backup quarterback. I think that he would do it. I just think personally, I think he looks at his situation last year in Atlanta, and they didn't play to his strengths at all. I'd be a little pissed that you guys paid me all this money. Yeah. I was supposed to be the guy. Then you throw me a gigantic curveball and pull the ball out from underneath me, and you draft a quarterback in the first round. You immediately inject this chaos and this confusion in the locker room. You give me sort of this impossibility from a leadership standpoint. And then the first, 6 games of his Atlanta career, the offense looks nothing like he was ever successful in. It's like all the wrong things for him to do. And it's like, maybe they're taking care of his Achilles. I don't know what it was, but it's like, this isn't even the same guy because you're not even playing to his strength. So I blame the organization. I blame the coaching staff. And I still think that he has some left in the tank as a starter. And I certainly feel like he feels the same way.
We're going to have a lot of time to discuss this, but, every day we get texts on McCarthy, and Seifert was telling me that it's one of those deals, they got all these studies where if you put a certain name in a headline, it's going to get read by the most people. And apparently it's true nationally with J.J. McCarthy. There's a fascination with him nationally. Certainly there is here for all the obvious reasons. So with a lot of time, and an opportunity, obviously, to amend your position as we get closer to actually seeing him on the field, what do you believe is realistic to expect from J.J. McCarthy in his rookie season?
I don't want to get over my skis here and say that he's going to take us to the playoffs, but I think it's going to be pretty damn close. I think that he is going to – I think he's going to go on, maybe after a couple games. I think he's going to go on this amazing run. I think that his leadership skills are really going to shine. I think the competitiveness, the fire that he plays with, I think is really going to come out. And again, you look at this team that he's been given. It's a pretty damn good team on paper. And again, having Blake Brandel at left guard as it is right now, and if we get through the first round of this draft and they draft a different position, I'm fine with what we have. He has a really good offensive line in front of him, especially when Darisaw comes back. We expect him to come back very healthy and just pick up right where he left off. And you got all these weapons offensively. I don't see a reason why he's not successful. And again, you talk about the quarterback whisperer, and that's KOC. Him calling plays and using his strong arm and the play action ability and his accuracy and his guile and all that stuff. I think he's going to be very successful. Paired that up with a pass rushing aggressive defense that hopefully plays a little stickier man coverage and gets a little tougher in the back end. This is just a really talented football team. And so, is he going to get a lot of credit for the success? Absolutely. But I still think the team itself is very talented, and the team itself could take us a long way.
Do you wish deep down that you were in Green Bay this evening?
Absolutely not.
It's festive. Way. I'm looking at the shot. It's festive. It looks like a carnival in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Well, good for them. I'm happy for them. let the beer and the cheese flow.
Yeah.
And I know that they're going to put on a great show. It's going to be highly entertaining. But I've actually heard from a lot of people that, on the business side of things, the going to the draft is not fun. There's, not a lot of hoopla that happens inside. I mean, there's some excitement, but, especially with us at 24, no. I'd rather be at US Bank Stadium here in a couple hours.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of with you as well. Good to catch up. Enjoy have a good draft tonight, and we'll talk soon. Thanks as always, Nacho.
Yeah, can I stop you real quick before we go to break?
Sure.
Because I haven't heard all of your takes, but now that we're really on the doorstep of the draft, what is your gut feeling that they go for position wise? I'm not going to ask you about a player, but what position do you want to see?
Well, because I have over the years become a meat and potatoes guy, I'll never be upset if you take a line, somebody at the line of scrimmage, offense or defense, because I think, the point you've raised has been raised before, that on the defensive side, the guys you got in the free agency are good, but they are a little older. And, part of this deal is, okay, if you can draft some of those players, then you don't have to spend all that money. And this team needs, obviously, young talent to go with what else they've done. But as boring as it is, so to me, that always makes the most sense. Line of scrimmage. But I am really the boring. If you've got the plateau thing, and there's one player left on whatever the plateau is, take the player. I don't care if it's a position you think you have 12 guys at. I tend to go with don't pass on a talent if you're saying, God, we really still didn't think this guy would be there. It's not a position we have great need for, but we're gonna take him nevertheless. I tend to think in the long run, because there's so many variables, as you know, about you think you're deep at a certain position, then a couple people get hurt, and then you're not. So if you can get a player who has the best chance to be a starter, for God's sake, anywhere, eventually I say take that player.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. So it'll be exciting to see. I think I have a feeling that we're both going to be pretty happy with the selection.
I'm not a big move down guy. I just take. Don't overcomplicate it. And Kwesi's got a lot. Has had some of that in him, I think. And there are sometimes where you maximize that way. But I think you can get, to use your term, a little bit too cute sometimes. And so just take the player on the board.
Yeah, as the kids would say, hashtag stick and pick.
And that's it. Thanks, Nacho. Have fun tonight.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you. That is the one, the only Ben Leber, Nacho Leber. I tell you what, we've got some text to get caught up on, and we'll have an opportunity to do that because our next guest is scheduled for about 5:45-ish. And in our effort to cover all the bases in today's program, he will be hockey-related. Pat Micheletti is going to join us from the X, I think, in the Fallna Studios, beginning at 5:45. Wild, game number 3. Most of you know by now, hosting the Vegas Golden Knights, a game that you can hear on our flagship FM 100.3 The Fan. He'll be coming up from there. I'm very curious to get his view on this series at 1-1 and what he wants to see this evening as well. And as I mentioned, we'll explore several texts as well. You were about to say?
Let's do some bonus bucks.
Oh, let's do that too.
Because we double straddled.
That's true.
So we'll give you some bonus bucks. The final keyword of the evening, thanks to BigDeck.com. I got to reach all the way over here. I hope this isn't on KFAN.com/watch. Happy is the final keyword of the night. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword happy.
Fan.
It never fails that people find themselves caught up in the notion that we're set. Kidding me? Minnesota Vikings have got no real serious questions between the players who are coming back and the free agents that we have added. We're set. So
we should turn in some of our picks.
This draft pick doesn't mean that much. So let's roll the dice. Let's. We didn't have to make a pick tonight. Let's trade into round 2. Get an extra pick. And it's a sexy trap to fall into, but the great football minds know there's no such thing as too much talent. Especially because some of the talent you think is great turns out to be not that great or gets hurt. So, again, unless you can convince me that you literally are going to be picking from the same plateau of players you would have been at if you stayed at, what are we now, 24?
Yep. Unless
you can convince me of that with a straight face, then I'm not moving. Again, I mean, the Spielman philosophy was that we're going to move down 5 spots, but we've identified at 24 5 players we like that are all pretty much on the same level. And we already did that, so we're not lying to ourselves. Then I might listen to it. And in the interim, we're going to end up with a late extra second-round pick or a third-round pick or whatever. Then to me it makes sense. But you have to be honest about that. And often, I think, you're either dishonest about it or you admit, no, that's not likely. We like this guy at 24. We'll take the guy at 24. Now, again, there's variables like whether you get a trade in which a player is involved. There's a lot of things that could have me reconsidering the position, but it's a dangerous trap to fall into that our starters are set. Our lineup is solid right now. We're not going to get anybody in that draft that's going to it's going to be good enough right away to knock anybody out of a starting position. That's not how the great teams operate.
Correct.
They just don't, and there's proof of that. What the great teams operate as keep adding talent. We'll find a way. Life finds a way. Somebody once said in I think it was one of the dinosaur motion pictures.
Jurassic Park,
Dinosaurs?
The original.
Yeah,
Didn't
life
Jeff Goldblum
finds
say
a
that?
way. I think you're right.
He did.
So, in all honesty, I same thing. Talent finds a way, and if it's a talented player, you don't worry about that kind of stuff. You let the coach deal with it. There's a million things that could happen between now and the start of the 2025 National Football League season. And I'm not going to, like I said, I'm glad Leber didn't ask me for players' names because I wouldn't have any to give. I mean, I can parrot the names.
Yes,
that
everybody kind of knows
everybody
the names.
offers
Yep.
up, but I haven't. I'm not. Historically, this program hasn't been that interested in the machinations of the draft to go deep. I mean, and I'm not ripping any shows or anybody who does. There's interest in it, but I find it's wearying, the whole process. And I think you're kind of making it up as you go along, and it's all a guessing game anyway. And a lot of it, I just don't think is all that interesting. It doesn't keep my interest enough. So, but I trust it as a concept. Drafts, in any sport, especially football, it's the lifeblood of any really good organization. Because what the best organizations do is they don't rely on free agency to the degree that the Vikings, quite frankly, are right now, in part out of necessity because they haven't drafted often enough, well enough. But the best teams, they absolutely use it, and they don't. And what do the best personnel people do? They don't care what the consensus is. They don't care what the conventional wisdom is. I've talked about this, and that's one of the great strengths in basketball of Jerry West. Now I'm going to really annoy the football people because I'm using a basketball analogy.
We don't do it just for hockey.
No.
It all comes back to basketball.
Don't. I mean, West didn't care that, most of the other GMs, they're scared of that guy. He didn't care. He wasn't always right, but he was true to his convictions, and he didn't allow himself to get swayed by, who else? Which way is the wind blowing on that guy? I don't care. I think this guy's got a chance to be really good, and so we're going to go out and get him, whether it was a draft pick or a trade or, combination of both.
One of the words that we don't talk a lot about that the new AG guys use, like collaboration and alignment, intentionality,
yes.
Proactive instead of reactive, all of them. Sustainability. That's one that gets thrown around a little bit less than some of the other ones. The only way you get sustained success is by drafting.
That's it. That's correct.
And eventually you have to do it. And they haven't done it enough, obviously. And you have to do it year after year after year so that when these older guys fall off, guess what? Got another guy that's just coming into his prime, maybe his second contract. We're going to give him a nice little bump right now, and he's going to be our new edge, or he's going to be our new linebacker. He's going to be our new, offensive lineman, whatever it is. That's how you build sustainability, is accumulating enough good draft picks that they're just there for you.
Yeah.
That's how it works. They keep saying that word. They want to build a sustained winner, right?
Yes. That's what they say.
Now's the time to start doing that. You stripped it all down. You've obviously signed a lot of good players, you think. But now the second part of that is backfilling and getting backups and the next generation when 2-3 years down the road, these guys move on.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's not all that complicated to also understand that if you get better at that, you don't have to spend as much money, or you can use that money elsewhere, in other ways that give you greater flexibility or greater depth or whatever the case may be. That's the beauty of it. I mean, to a certain extent, everybody's got to spend a minimum amount, right? But
yes,
how ambitious you are, so many of the great teams go, why is there such an emphasis on, he's in his rookie contract? Because in your rookie contract, you're not making any money, or relatively speaking, not as much money. And that's what teams profit from. They can use then the money elsewhere. They can wait a year and say, we're going to hold on to some of that money. We're going to wait because we like the free agency class to get more the next year, whatever the case may be. But you can't put off forever the fact that you draft not that well. It's going to, sooner or later, it's going to catch up with you. And, it's not like the cupboard's been bare since Kwesi got here, but there's not been enough sustained success. He has papered it over, because I think it certainly appears, last year, I think it's fair to say that every free agent we signed was every name free agent we signed was pretty successful. The batting average was quite good. And that's part of how you evaluate any general manager. And going in, the signs are very favorable about the names that they added this year, too. But the draft is got to be a bigger component if you want to have this, as you mentioned, sustainability. That's a very, very big part of it. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open, 64686. Twins did end up losing today. They did not.
7 innings.
It was a rain-shortened game at Target Field. Will you double-check the paid attendance for today? Because with the rain, I bet you, and the opponent. On the other hand, maybe people brought their brooms. But we didn't get the sweep. We won the first 2 games of the series against the wretched White Sox, and then we lose today in the rain-shortened game after 7 innings. We were shut out, I believe, today 3-0 was the final score. By the way, a couple people said, well, you're making it sound like the TNT's not broadcasting any NBA playoff games tonight. That's true. They are broadcasting 2. I just don't think they're broadcasting, and that's where I agree with Charles Barkley, the right one. It doesn't make any sense that they chose not to do the Denver Nuggets against the Clippers. That's game 3 of what's been an outstanding series thus far. The other thing, while you're looking that up, that I wanted to get to here, if I can get to today's
CBS usually has it, don't they? Because some of them don't have it all the time, the box scores.
Here's what I wanted to mention box score wise. I'm going to give you a sampling of batting averages in today's game that featured the Twins and the White Sox, okay? 214, 138, 246, 165, 087, 163, 157, 250, 225, 116, 225, 210, 167, 233, 250, 095, 226,
it's a little frustrating,
and 152. I mean, that's insane. Now, allegedly, batting averages are down in baseball across the board already this year. I don't know if it's going to be a pitcher's year, it's the weather, whatever the case may be. But the number of inept hitters, or at least hitters who are hitting ineptly so far this season between these two teams, astonishing. Did we find? Oh, you're actually, I do have the box score. So let me see what the paid attendance was as I scroll down. Where did it go here? I thought
here we go. I've got it.
Did you
here.
find it? Good.
This is what they say.
Okay.
12,414.
Oh, come on.
This is MLB.com.
All right. Well, I guess it's possible there were that many. There were not 12,000. I don't think it was 12,000 even at the start of the game in the seats. And then the weather did get worse over the course of the game. And then it ultimately. So it's just a chilly, cold rain. Two bad hitting baseball teams. I can't imagine a gloomier situation. But that's and so we didn't get the sweep. We did
correct
win the series. Took 2 out of 3 from the still quite feeble Chicago White Sox.
Just got a text from Kevin Fallness informing us that Pat Micheletti is in his studio.
He's ready to go?
Ready to go, and he writes, hopefully you can keep it short. Would hate to interrupt all this draft talk.
Yeah, well, we are going to keep it relatively short, but not as short as his pregame show, which apparently is like 5 minutes. It's unbelievable.
Man.
There's no abyss right now. I mean, I think that is fairly clear. You've got NFL Draft Round 1 tonight. Nobody ever gets sick of that. At least football fans don't. You got the Minnesota Timberwolves continuing their first-round series with the Lakers at home tomorrow night, 1-1. They did what they went to L.A. to do, get one game, come back with home court advantage. And speaking of home ice, your Minnesota Wild tonight hosting Vegas, having done what they wanted to do, split the first 2 games in Vegas. So they come back here with home ice advantage as well. Micheletti is already locked and loaded inside the palatial Fallness Studios preparing for the 8 o'clock, probably more like 8:15, opening face-off tonight. Does he light a candle or two for you, Micheletti, or what's the current?
Looking around, and I do see a candle, and of course, it's not lit. But Dan,
yes,
I mean, I know you listen to Beyond the Pond every Saturday, so you know what I go through, and so. You know,
yeah.
Do you really think he was going to do that for me?
There's a lot of tension on that show. I'm not going to lie to you, but I think it's helpful. I think it that's what makes it the show that it is.
Yeah, we do go at it once in a while, and then our producer jumps in, and so you kind of have to navigate through both of those channels, if you will. But no, we have a good time. It's fun. It's
a lot of fun, and it's fun to listen to as well. So we got Game 3 tonight. For you, what was the moral of the story of Game 2? Why were the Wild able to come back with that important road win?
Well, first of all, I some people may agree or not agree with me, but I actually thought they played better in Game 1. That game was won in a 10-minute stretch where, lo and behold, they scored 3 goals and shocked the world. But why did they do that? Well, they were playing fast, and when they played fast, that made Vegas turn the puck over. It made them chase a little bit, and I thought that is when they are really successful in what they're trying to do. And for those 10 minutes, they were great. And the all-world pass, which we saw, but even that play, bang bang, Boldy saw it and saw Kaprizov with the puck and broke to the spot, and Kaprizov hit him, and the rest was history. But when they play fast, when they make Vegas, who is a very heavy team, and Dan, and you know this, bigger guys get tired quicker for whatever reason, and when you beat them to pucks and make them work a little bit, they will get tired. Conversely, though. We saw probably 40 to 45% of the time, maybe even a little bit more of play in Minnesota's defensive zone. And why is that? Because Vegas is a heavy team. They are very methodical in the way they approach their offense, and they can wear you down. So for me tonight, a big key for Minnesota is it's really going to be on their forwards to help their defensemen out. and getting, the quick exits out of the zone. When Vegas gets you in the defensive zone, or Minnesota's defensive zone, they can be a bear. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for tonight for both teams.
After game one of the things that Russo was mentioning with us was a belief that despite the team's trademark style this year, which when it was going good was basically play really sound defensively, good goaltending, and don't make silly mistakes, almost wait for the other team to do that as good as that has been for them as a model, that he said, look, I sort of feel like you got to force the action a little bit. You got to get on the offensive a little bit. You got to change the calculus of a game. Otherwise, you can sit back as the underdog, but how do you break through? So did they do that in game two, even though you said you thought in some ways they played better in game one? And is that part of what needs to happen tonight?
100%. They are a quicker team than Vegas. And as I alluded to earlier, that 10-minute stretch, they were all over them. Everything has to happen quick. And meaning quick shots, quick passing, outbeat them or to all those loose pucks and get control. If you do that, then things are going to go your way a little bit more. But, again, it all comes down, to Minnesota, in their own end, and making sure that you don't allow as much time as Vegas had in Minnesota's end. And so, tonight, Dan, that Vegas, they're going to look at that game and say, hey, all we did was didn't score. And so they're going to make some adjustments tonight. It's not going to be as easy for them because Minnesota has the last change. But Jack Eichel and Mark Stone were not great in either of those games, and those two are all world players, so they're not going to be very happy. So Minnesota's got to be ready for the adjustments, ready to make their own adjustments, and play from there.
Neither the home arenas of the Minnesota Wild or the Minnesota Timberwolves have been houses of pain this year. I talked about this at the start of the show. The Wolves had the 12th best home record in the league. The Wild had the 17th best home record in the league at 22-17-2. Do you have any theories on? I know later we had injuries, but even early in the season when the team was doing really well overall, it was mainly on the road. So is there any explanation for that? And is that any cause? Is there any reason to think that that's going to translate even now to the postseason?
Oh, sure it does. And a big reason for that is, it's like you're at home, right? And you're getting on your nice couch and getting comfortable and, and putting on the TV and watching it, whatever whatever analogy you want to use. Sometimes you have the thought process is, I can make this play. And then, you turn the puck over, goes the other way, and they score. And so instead of playing the game that is set out for you by your coaching staff, you kind of get away from that a little bit. And so they have to have that mindset of same way all the time, what our coaches want us to do, and not deviate from that. And I think they'll have a little bit more success.
One of the things that Russo wrote about, and we talked about this a little bit with him too, is his belief that when you look back on the Game 2 victory, that he thinks the one lineup adjustment, which was Hartman to third line center, Rossi to fourth, was very large, and that the Foligno, Hartman, Nyquist line was massive. Do you agree with that? And what specifically did they bring?
Well, I'll tell you. And a lot of there's been a lot of talk about Marco Rossi, and rightly so. He hasn't played great. But let's not forget, this is his first playoff series. Never played in games that are this intense, get hit every shift, no time and space at all. So I'm giving him a little pass for that. And you saw what Hartman did. Hartman's been there before. He's a grizzled veteran, and he likes to get dirty. He likes to, he doesn't mind getting a cross check to the face, as we know, but he's held his composure very well. But you just see a guy like that, and he's a guy that you don't want to play against. And so I know John Hines has said, we still think that Rossi can play a part in this series. And so do I. But how do you do that? I think they're going to, if I were them, I would move him to the wing, take a little pressure off of him, because when you're a centerman, your responsibility to defend down low, and especially against a big team like that, really takes a lot out of you. And, I would move him to the wing. I would get him back to where he is successful. He has an innate ability of getting to the net and scoring a lot of goals from in front of the net. So I think if they just free him up a little bit, we'll see what happens. But I do think the move was justified.
What in your, now that you've gotten to see Heinze in charge here for a while,
yep,
what do you take as the biggest difference when you watch the Wild in terms of approach, style, whatever, substitution, whatever, the biggest difference that you see between the Hines regime and the Dean Evison regime?
Well, first of all, I think Dean Evison, should be commended for the job he did in Columbus this year. And, almost got a team that had no chance of getting into the playoffs, just finishing right out. So from that perspective, yes, they are different coaches. Hines is just so dedicated to detail, and he just pounds it and pounds it and pounds it in their brains. And he wants them to play a certain way, and he wants them, to a guy. Here's where you have to be in this situation. Here's who you have to check. Here's where you need to be when we get the puck. And it is so finely detailed that, through the course of a season, a team starts to get it. Now, they were discombobulated a little bit with all the injuries, and and talk about a tough team to handicap going into the playoffs. It's this team right here, because they were rolling all the way up until December, until everything went haywire. But that being said, even the guys that came up and had to fill certain roles, they worked their tails off every night. And so you commend them for that, and they played, I hate to use this word, Dan, but the right way, or that phrase, but that's how they played every night. And, you knew they were shorthanded. You knew they weren't going to get to 3 a lot of nights just because of what they had in the lineup. But they stuck with it, and the attitude has been great. And they just, they just kept believing in themselves.
To me, one of the things that needs to hold up that I think has been a change too is I think this team has been better at avoiding the stupid penalty. Because I think the last team, occasionally it would, Roos and I were talking about this too, they would get so caught up in whatever the fight was or the battle or cheap shot that you end up, okay, I'm going to get revenge, but at the risk of giving that other team another power play opportunity when your special teams ain't that good, that this team has been more disciplined in that regard and needs to continue to be. What do you think?
You haven't think they talked about that in the room, because if you're looking at the other side, you got Eichel and Mark Stone and Shea Theodore and Pietrangelo, you don't want them to have the power play. And their discipline has been great. We can look at the Hague cross-checking, Hartman. By the way, if you looked at the whole play, Hartman tripped him first. He got up, smashed him. But we don't want to talk about that here in Minnesota, do we? I mean, we don't, because it can only be one way.
Yes, of course.
And the rest are screwing us.
That's it.
And then the punch, obviously. But, there'll be a time where, you can lay a good hit on them, but you have to stay disciplined, or else, you'll have an early exit.
I appreciate the time. Enjoy the puck tonight. I was a little disappointed to find out that the pregame show, it's like 4 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Not even that. Kevin's even telling me it might be less.
I don't understand why he talks such a good game about we need more hockey, and then he doesn't want to be a part of it.
You know what? He's really tuckered now.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. He said,
late puck drops.
Well, we had him in studio last week. He was emotional.
I heard that. That was great stuff.
I thought it would basically back him off a little bit. It would soften him, but no, he's been every time we talk anything but hockey, he's texting pretty much he's got to either he monitors the show constantly or he has somebody doing it for him because he always knows.
Hey, are the Lakers Are they legit to win this series or what?
No, I
you're brave to pivot to basketball in Fallness' house.
I know. I did it on purpose, kind of. I know. Justin thinks that they'll get tired, but there's Luka and LeBron.
No, I think it's a long series. I definitely do. I like the Wolves' chances. Although I detected, we had Craig Kilborn on earlier, and he sounded a little more nervous than I thought he would be. But I think he's a little concerned about Game 3. We'll see. I'm a big Nuggets guy, so I think they're going to end up winning that series. They could. It's a great series.
Yeah, it really is.
The Nuggets, Clippers might be the best first round series. Gargi, did you have something?
Well, I was just going to say, in terms of tomorrow's show, if Jack Eichel comes out and has 2 first-period goals and the Vegas Golden Knights run away with Game 3, it's fair to say hockey will come up tomorrow right at the start.
There's no question.
3:02.
No question about
that.
You
do know that, Dan, are you aware that Fallness thinks Eichel would be a good third-line center?
Yes.
I'm getting kicked out of here now.
Yeah, be careful, man. He's done. He's pulling the plug.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mick. Appreciate you.
Take care.
All right. That is Pat Micheletti from the X, from the Fallness Studios. Wild hosting Vegas in just about, 2 hours and change. I think the actual first face-off, opening face-off is scheduled for 8:15. Well, we're inside an hour. Countdown to 2025 National Football League Draft. It's a buzz in the air. Can feel it all the way from Green Bay, Wisconsin. It looks like, by the way, a few more people are there from 4 hours ago when it looked to me like it was pretty vacant, pretty empty. I don't know if they're going to get 2.5 million, but it looks like there's thousands of people in and around Lambeau Field. Now they're getting the obligatory, coming out of break or into break shots of a camera panning the crowd and people giving them what they want, pointing to the logo of their favorite team, screaming, Vikings suck, all the things that you might expect.
Apparently they've been chanting Bears still suck constantly.
Is that right?
Dan Orlovsky just tweeted about
My dream continues. It looks like a pretty good sea of people, by the way.
It looks great, honestly. It looks cool.
Let me ask you this, though. Clayton from Rochester writes, Dan, NFL execs having to stay at KOA campgrounds, road closures, parking scandals. Any chance you go back into the belly of the beast and check in with Gerby tomorrow?
We could.
Is he making up the parking scandal, or is there something going on that I've missed?
I don't know about that. I'll look into it. Scanner Squawk would probably be good tonight, too, by the way.
Scanner Squawk would be a great comeback for him. Is he still doing Scanner Squawk?
I'm not sure. But I do know that the usual practice of Green Bay residents opening their lawns up for...
Not anymore?
No, they are, for parking. But they're jacking the prices up. Obviously, because there's more people that are probably going to be there than even your average Green Bay Packer game.
Are NFL execs actually staying at KOA campgrounds?
Maybe.
Is that also happening? Because, we heard yesterday from Wexler III, and he was not interested at all in hanging with the Green Bay peasants. He made it clear. He kind of admitted he was an elitist. He said, I want good restaurants to go to. I want good hotels to go to. I don't want to have to mess with the little people. So... it's an elitist approach, but so are NFL execs. They're pretty elitist, too.
Here's what I'll say, though. Yeah. As someone who has frequented many a KOA campground and other RV campgrounds.
Underrated?
If you've got the right RV or mobile home, which you can find really nice ones. Most of them are very nice.
That's true.
It honestly doesn't sound like the dumbest idea ever.
It could be quite suave, you're saying.
Yeah, you could get a hell of a nice trailer, just load it up there, and have your own little area there. That doesn't sound crazy.
No.
It might be crazy, but I could actually see it because there's some beautiful RVs and campers that are nicer than homes.
So is it 5 minutes between picks or 10? I can never remember.
I think first round is 10 now.
Is it 10 minutes?
I think so, yeah.
So it's going to be a while before the Vikings pick, if they stay at 24, obviously move down. If they're picking 24th. I'll admit I have great interest in the possibility of the Monsters of the Midway, my club, moving up to get, what's the name of the Boise State running back? Jonte, however you say it?
Ashton Genty.
Genty. But allegedly, he ain't going to be. Some people have him sliding all the way to 10, depending on other teams and a couple of trade possibilities. There's also speculation that the Bears might not want to take that risk and move up to get him. I think he's got a chance to be really, really good. And, the new Bears head coach is a 2 running back guy, right? I mean, that's what he did in Detroit with great success. He's got Swift. He wants another running back. So that would be an extraordinary, I think. I've always felt that the notion that running backs don't matter anymore, or you can get a good one in the 3rd or 4th round, occasionally there's a guy who comes along that's more than good. And I think the league is already shifting back enough.
Totally.
That you don't even have to, work all that much into overtime to convince yourself that if you got a great player at the running back position, it should be like any position. Do not be afraid to go get him. So we'll see how that goes. To me, and because it's a draft that is not, I don't think this draft is viewed as being likely very predictable because there's so much disagreement about so many different players. And obviously it's not a quarterback-rich draft either, correct? So, at least on paper. So it could make the first round unpredictable to that extent. Whether we're ultimately going to have all that many moves or trades up or down, I don't know. And maybe it does make it more likely there's trades because there's some teams that say, well, I don't care, again, what the chalk says. We think if we can get this guy at 7 or at 10, we're going to go ahead and try to move up to do it. I don't know. We'll certainly see. One more break. We'll come back, wrap up the show, remind you what we have coming up tonight on The Fan, and what we have in our immediate future, what you might have missed from earlier in the program. Stay tuned.
Show wrap presented by American Pressure, commercial grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
42 minutes and 38 seconds till the start of the 2025 National Football League draft. And there's just an extra energy all over the United States of America. I don't think there's any question about that. Maybe part of it is the old belief that this could be the ticket to my team getting well. I need a boost. I need a sense of hope. And maybe this is the year my team could strike gold in the NFL draft. Maybe with a player whose name I could barely pronounce right now, but ends up being a first ballot Hall of Famer. Who's to say?
Good luck.
Yeah, probably unlikely to be honest about it. But all the coverage that you want will be available to you tonight. It will be first on The Fan. I assume immediately following us. Is that correct?
No, Fan on Demand on the air first.
Oh, there will be. Okay.
For 30 minutes. We start at 7.
We start at 7. And then as soon as the Wild take to the ice, our draft coverage will then move over to News Talk AM 1130, correct?
You got it. And 103.5 FM and the iHeartRadio app.
Perfect. And then Wild, of course, will be on our flagship. Opening face-off 8:15. Pregame show will start at 8:12, apparently, according to what I've heard from the Fallness Studios. We will certainly review Game 3 of that series on tomorrow's show. Preview Game 3 Wolves-Lakers series as well. Several guests tomorrow. Today, we want to thank an outstanding guest lineup that included, most recently, Pat Micheletti from the X, Ben Leber on his way to covering the Vikings draft, and then Krager's checked in from the West Coast, from Los Angeles, California, to give us his views on the first 2 games of the series and what he thinks is the key to the Wolves trying to regain control of I shouldn't say regain, but sort of counter the chess moves from the Lakers in winning Game 2 when the Wolves host the Lakers in Game 3. He confirmed he will not be coming for the home games in this series, but he will attend Round 2, which I think is the winner of Golden State Houston, correct?
It would be.
And did we get any medical update on Jimmy Butler? I didn't see one all day.
No, I didn't. He was going to get an MRI today, right?
That's it.
When's their next game? Is it tomorrow, or do they have 2 days
I don't know. No, we're the only team, the only series that has.
Well, I thought they might take care of Steph, too, because he's old.
True, yeah.
They need him, too.
I think, it's hard to believe that even if Butler played, he'd be the same player, at least for the next game, but we'll see. Although they are playing at home, right? Because they split the 2 games in Houston.
We'd have home court if it was the Warriors.
That's true. That's a great point. You're right about
there's
that.
something to think about.
That's, more incentive for your club to just take care of business and assert themselves as the better team, which I think they should be. This is a series in which there was every opportunity, despite the pedigree of the Lakers, to get this thing done when you factor in the depth compared to their depth, and even the way the two teams finished the season in the final quarter of the regular season. And we started the show with it. The challenge for both the Wolves and the Wild is to play better at home than they've tended to this season. The Wild had the 17th best home record this year. Wolves had the 12th best home record this year. And, the Wolves had some struggles at home in the postseason last year, right?
They did.
Going back to the Denver series and Dallas, obviously. So I don't think there's any question the energy will be good tonight at the X. I think the energy will be very good at Target Center tomorrow. But the team, to sustain it, obviously the team has to go out and play well and take full advantage of the opportunity. So
you want to keep playing from ahead in this series.
Well, you'd like to, yes.
You don't want to be staring down 3-1 the other way on Sunday afternoon.
No, not a team that features a guy who could score 45 at any moment.
Correct.
And just tear you up. Just tear you inside out. You get it down to that one game kind of thing. That's what you have to be concerned with. I mean, we all, to a certain extent, might be also waiting on a breakthrough of scoring game from Edwards.
You're right.
Because he hasn't had that either.
He has not.
So maybe getting back home will help him there. They have to counter what clearly was a greater emphasis on sending a second person, sending a lot of people, quite frankly, at Ant, right? And you have to have a plan to fend that off.
Rest up, Colony.
The Colony's got to rest up, and probably more than any other player, Dante DiVincenzo has to arrive because that Game 2 performance was lousy.
Yeah,
and it was obviously foul. Part of the issue was foul. He couldn't play because he was in foul trouble, but that was not a good performance by him at all. And you got to get something really out of both players you got in the Cat trade. In fact, by the way, that series continues tonight. I think the Knicks are in Detroit. I'm very curious about that one, too.
They're up 9 right now, halfway through the first quarter.
Has Cat touched the ball yet?
You want me to pull up the box score quick?
I bet you they've made an emphasis of getting the ball to the Cat. That's not the key, though. They also got to be willing to give him the ball in the fourth quarter every once in a while. We know Brunson's a great clutch player. Did you see where Rudy finished in the Defensive Player of the Year vote?
I bet because of the Luka play, I bet he finished like 8th this year.
13th.
Yeah.
Not even in the top 10. I think Mobley won. I think from Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Cat has 8 points, by the way.
Cat's got 8 already?
8 of the 20.
How many shots?
4. He's made 2 threes.
So they are making it. They are emphasizing it. Impressive. Evan Mobley wins Defensive Player of the Year. Dyson Daniels, Atlanta, second. Day, he's going to be bitter. Third.
Oh, that's a shame.
Day is not. He might motivate him. We'll see.
That's devastating.
Thanks for watching. Literally today. Thank you for listening. And we'll review Vikings draft, review Wild, preview Wolves. No Abyss right now when we recommence at 3 o'clock tomorrow right here on The Fan.
Whenever you